So I'm just going to run through a few slides. I don't want to take up too much of your time because this is effectively an update report. It's a progress report on the implementation of the investment plan, and particularly following on from the meetings we had in June. Covering master planning and the play planning update, looking at community pod designs, an update on Dingle and Thurso and the next steps. And I would point out that the next steps is probably the most important part because really we've got two important meetings coming up, one in December, which I'll come to, and one later at the start of 2025 when we'll begin to see these investment decisions being asked for. But I think it's really important also to draw your attention, members, to the content of the report. You'll see at the back a number of appendices that have very clear indications of the work that's going on our pod delivery. If you bear with me, I'm just trying to. Sure. Okay. So a really important part is set out in section 5 of the report. Now, I don't want to underestimate the amount of work that's going on in the background to make sure that we're not just looking at these as direct like-for-like replacements. We're looking at these as the points of delivery that we previously agreed. And you can see some of the concept designs that have been put together. We've made really progress engaging partners, for example, which is always a bit of a challenge. And that work is coming together for us to help identify what can be located within points of delivery. So, we're not talking about replacing a school with just a school, a depot with just a depot, an office with just an office. It's really looking at how we can engage, co-locate, and perhaps look at whether it's related to service delivery or whether it's related to things like leisure facilities. So the link in the report you've got set out a walkthrough video that has been prepared. I don't know whether you're able to see that on your laptops, but certainly for us, we think we're making really good progress, and I will just share that with you. And perhaps if you don't mind, I'll just carry on talking about it. But it really is, trying to get. I don't think this one necessarily would get planning permission right away, but you can see the concepts behind this. It's looking at not just one use, but these co-located pods. So what we've been doing is set out in the report. You can see behind us. This has to start with place planning. It's not just a design exercise. It's about looking and getting information from local place plans that have been produced, the work that's going on in our development plan process and pulling these together. And that's certainly what we've been doing with Dingwall and Thurso over the last couple of months, and we're continuing to do that. Community engagement is going to be really, really important. We are working with we are discussing with individual groups, for example, parent council groups, but also with the wider public and other partners. Certainly for Dingwall, we've got a big day on the 7th of November at the British Legion. We'll be there all day, I think, and that is very much an opportunity to start to engage on the issues in Dingwall that lead through to that recommendation in December. So, next step for us, December Council, you will see an updated position on the Highland investment plan. We're not just doing Dingwall and Thurso, but that was what we agreed we would focus on for the December meeting. Work is going on all of the other 5 priority schools that were identified, for example. We're doing work around depots, we're doing work around public sector co-location. That'll all feed into that first tranche of activity. We'll bring the information from Dingwall back, looking for with a shortlist and looking for a preferred option. And again, the work on Thursday will come back with a long list to allow to see what we've done there and allow us to plan the next stage of engagement. Most importantly, we'll give you an update on progress timescales on the expected sequence of project for all of the Phase 1 Highland Investment Plan locations. That will then feed into your investment decisions in December in February next year. Then again, really important part of this is about how we cure it. £2.1 billion of investment planned. We have pressures, on our supply chain with our current programme. That is only going to continue. So it's really important we do work just now on what the best procurement vehicles are. There are lots of different opportunities. That might be joint ventures. It might be using different frameworks. It might be engaging on a traditional basis. But certainly we've got to make sure the capacity to do it. We are going through market testing exercise at the moment. We're speaking to all of the major suppliers, the tier 1 suppliers and other frameworks, and we will bring back recommendations on how we think we can best accommodate this level of investment that we're going to see, because I'm sure like we do, all members want to see the progress on this as quickly as we can. So that's just an overview. I hope you find the visuals interesting. Please speak to myself, any of the team, if there are any questions about the work happening. And we look forward to the December meeting.
Professor Bremner.
Thanks very much, Malcolm. Before I address the paper, I'd like to move the recommendations. And I believe that convener, I thought that you would like that, but and convener, I'm sure you would, you'll second them. But it's been a year since we were in this chamber, and we didn't know what. We knew that LEAP 3 wasn't going to be delivering anything for us. We didn't know what LEAP was going to be able to do to be able to help us with our school programme. We also had no idea where the country was going in terms of levelling. We had an unaffordable historic capital programme, and we were looking to cut it to between 300 and 400 million. It was a meeting I'm sure that many of you won't forget, but since then we have taken the initiative to put in place the Highland Investment Plan with a funding programme, not only for the initial 3 years at the time of the budget earlier this year, but for the following 20 years. It's a sustainable programme that will provide investment in community points of delivery, roads investment and infrastructure investment with reference to procurement, delivery, sustainability, and ongoing care and maintenance for the immediate, intermediate and the long-term future. I just wish I had a one that we could deliver it faster, but talking about delivering it as fast as we can and at pace, I'd like to see that happen. Following announcements from the Chancellor, which yesterday into capital funding, we're uncertain what effect that may have and the consequentials and what, if any, dire benefit we might realise from that as a local authority. While governments have been facing financial challenges, we're now 6 months into our own Highland Investment Plan since its launch, and whilst we expect the agreed substantive update at December Council, this interim update reminds us of the overall plan whilst acknowledging substantive parts of the plan and their update to the immediate future, particularly as we're seeing there just now in Dingwall and in Thursday. We're reminded of the categories of projects in 5.1.2 in the report, and our focus is on better use and more efficient use of buildings, co-location of service, and accommodation that can include partners and stakeholders, as well as consider our community views. In the appendices, we refer to the developing form of pods, as Malcolm was referring to there just now, hoping that you find it of interest, and associated concept designs and layouts. As I said, Our focus on Dingwall is an agreed phase 1 priority covering location and plan, incorporating various buildings and education services of the anticipated report to the Council in December. But the focus on Thurso with reference to stage 2 master planning detailed in 6.1.2, and in particular point 3 referring to the short list of options for looking at a community pod, timeline for stage 3, and an outline of potential partnerships and opportunities to partner that can be built in the design process. It's all presented in there, so that to me is a fairly substantive update in terms of progress for Dingwall and also Thurso. I'd also confirm our commitment, as far as I'm concerned, to continue with generalised updates for local members. That's important as well, where appropriate and in respect of the local aspect of the various phases of the Highland investment plan. So based on all of that, I end this to the Chamber and look forward to your comments. Thanks.
Councillor Christie.
Yeah, thank you, Convener, and thank you to Raymond for introducing this report. It's an update report. There's obviously a lot of good things in there that are happening, that are coming through, and things that we will all welcome. A couple of things that perhaps more information. I think again, likewise with last item, I think it talked 5.2.4 agreement about full engagement with communities. I'd like to see an engagement plan. I think we'd like to see an engagement plan. What does that like? What's going to be carried out? When going to be carried out? What outcomes are we expecting from it? And what are the benefits required from it? Because it's a little light on that. Sustainability is interesting. It's sustainable for what we're doing in terms of building. The financial sustainability worry me. We did set a ceiling of 10%. So 10% of our revenue turnover we will take for being the ceiling for debt. And so that would be at this time 75 million in terms of debt charges. At this moment, 68.7. So I think some analysis into the future years. I've asked question to the officers. Analysis into future years as what that ceiling might be would be useful in absolute terms. I do have an amendment to put into the chat. Last time we had this, we had love pictures of buildings, and I knew the IRA Inverness Royal Academy wasn't in because there wasn't children eating their dinner outside in the rain. Inverness Royal Academy affects 31 councillors. In this, 31 of you, including me, have children that go from your ward. So I'm moving an amendment, but it doesn't just Inverness Royal Academy, but it focuses on all academies to get a survey done to what actually are the arrangements. Are we able to safely, warmly, and in a dry environment allow children to eat, with those findings coming back to the next meeting of council, so that we can build that into the Highland investment plan, because it's really, really important that we holistically provide the well-being and assurance around our children in terms of they can eat in a safe place, they can eat in a dry place, not having to cram their food down, in woods, with the case of Inverness Royal Academy when it's raining. And so I think that's a very valid amendment. We don't want to really wear out the voting systems. You could just accept that again. That would be pretty useful. And if that were, we'd be trying that for the rest of the day. But this is a good update report. And leads us forward. I would like, when it's Clements, to be more in front of this, and some of my colleagues might want to speak about St. Clements more, but don't want to lose sight of that particular school, because if you'd agreed to start it when I first suggested it, it would have been built before you're actually going to be considering the statutory consultation on it. So I think it's important to recognise the delay that we've built in to St. Clements throughout this whole process. Thank you.
Councillor Balance.
Convener, I've just got a brief question relating to Bewley Primary School. We've seen the floor plans for a proposed new primary school, and I know there's currently discussions as to where to put it. Those floor plans, as far as I can remember, didn't show a sort of pod. So I'm just wondering, is there a proposal now to place a pod in it? And if so, which sort of pod? Is it a rural settlement or rural area or regional facility or what? And will that do the plans at all if that's incorporated? Thanks.
Mr. Stewart.
Yeah, thank you, convener. This is obviously very welcome. There's a lot of good things coming through the pipeline with this. But I've got a bit of a question regarding 5.1.2, which is the capital programme. With regards to the broader primary school, and I've been to the stakeholder meetings and I've asked this question before, but I keep getting fobbed off. Oh, it's good news, it's coming, don't worry about that. And to be fair, I do worry about that because my questions regarding the LEAP funding, the planning applications submitted for the Broadford Primary School. Now, with the key criteria to be eligible for the LEAP funding is that the pupil have to be in that school and learning in that school by next Christmas. Now, short of asking Santa Claus or the Tooth Fairy to deliver that school, it's not going to happen in time to meet that criteria. Is that good news? No, it's not. This is worth a lot of money to this council. The running cost of the school is worth a significant amount. That's all right. Oh, it's all right. It's good news. We're discussing with the Scottish Futures Trust, and that's fine. But when we're left holding the baby, when we're left with the bill for this, some of these members will be skipping out the door to enjoy what's left of their retirement. And that's not good enough because it will be saddling this council with more debt. We're trying to get out of a hole, and this laissez-faire attitude is digging us further in. So I would like to know what is actually happening with that. So have we secured an extension from Scottish Futures Trust? And the Scottish Government agreeable to this? I, for one, would like to know why it's lasted this long, why it's been dragged out, and what the repercussions are going to be. Because we did agree an extension for the other school that was award funding in that, but not the one in Skye, not the one in Broadford, and that's not good enough. I think we've got to be more proactive in making sure that all these things are sort of dotted off. But in addition to that, I think what Councillor Chris was saying about children having a warm and dry place to eat, I don't think there's anything wrong with asking for that. I mean, it's Kenzie, and anything else less that's the Kenzie, and it's third world at this point, because we should be having our children. That's the future of our Highlands, that's the future of our community. So, I think we should be bringing this forward to see, well, what can we do as art time and just understand the scope and scale of the problem. But I would really like to get some form of reassurance from perhaps the officers of this council that we will be requesting an extension to the deadline for the LEAP funding for Broadford Primary School, because it's completely unrealistic to expect this contract to be fulfilled on time.
Councillor Atkin.
Thank you, convener. I just want to make a couple of points, and I have a question from Malcolm. I just want to be positive about this paper, and we've talked today about we vote for things, and then nothing happens. Well, people have said that in this chamber. Well, this is something, hitting the ground running. There's an enormous amount of work that's already gone on. Obviously, the master plan areas like Dingwall and Thurso are the priority, but there is other work going on. I know there's a possible little bit of impatience because everybody wants everything to happen really quickly. So my question to come is about, your own capacity with staff in-house who were working incredibly hard on all of this. Will reference to that be brought forward in December? And also the engagement with not just with parent council, but again, the council reference, local members, just always be kept in the loop. I mean, if we're on the right committee, then we hear things that are happening. But if we're not, we might not know what's going on. So I think that is hugely important that we are centre of the stakeholder. For the schools, especially, obviously an interest in my own ward, but more generally on this programme, because it's hugely positive thing that's happening and transformative. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And I think just starting right at the back, the engagement, We have got something. It's a good idea. It should be in there, just detailing all the meetings we have. So, we clear that perhaps afterwards in terms of work that's going on. But it's more likely to be something we'll develop as we move from place to place, and that we'll try and make sure that is available. In terms of the issue raised, I understand it's an amendment, but in relation to the canteen and eating facilities, all I would say on that, in terms of from an operating point of view, it will be incredibly difficult, if not impossible, to have that done in time for the next council. So I would just stress that from my point of view in terms of the capacities that are available. Moving on to the questions at Broadford, I think you're right. The dates are slipping clearly, but the extra time that we've put in at the front end, we're much further in the road of the design, which would have been part of the overall delivery project anyway. We've been dealing with, as you know, significant inflation challenges. We've had to be doing a lot more value engineering. Perhaps we would have had to if I hadn't been facing these challenges. There are material supplier issues. And again, we've been putting a lot of time and effort into trying to identify these in advance, which will not lead to slippage in the actual programme and construction. And obviously, we're trying to apply lessons learned from previous projects. On a broader point about the contact with Scottish Government, we are keeping Scottish Futures Trust fully involved, as you would naturally expect. There have been no red flags up to us, but we are writing forward to extend the period, to ask to extend the period. We, as you say, the plan application's in. Tender's almost ready to go, and we do expect to be, yes, later than anticipated, but very much once the permission granted, hopefully, to just charge on with tender and then construction. And I think in terms of resources as always are a challenge. We've got a fantastic team. I would say there's two things that we're doing to mitigate the pressures. We are investing as part of the Highland delivery plan in the wider team. We are looking at bringing in more people that help either drive the projects forward or actually reduce some of the pressure on the team that are dealing with it. And we are looking to partners, so we have been using Up North as part of the work in Dingle as a bit of a trial. So they're helping with a lot of the consultation, the engagement with partners, and hopefully taking some of the load off our folk. But you are right, it is going to be a challenge, but it's an exciting challenge. Okay, in terms of Beauly, so we will bring something back in December. That'll perhaps put more meat on the bone of where we are with the other phase 1 project. I think the issues in Beauly will be down to which site is taken forward. As you know, there is still a bit of discussion about exactly what and where. We'll continue to be looking. I think the drive from members and indeed from ourselves is that we do look to locate as much as possible. So it will be about trying to identify if there are opportunities where these can be built at this stage without hopefully leading to some of the delay issues that have already been pointed out. But we will bring something back in December as promised.
So Rosie.
Thank you, Convener. I think it's only right to acknowledge the fact that Thursday's inclusion was a fairly late request. I've been very impressed by the speed of response and thank Malcolm and his team. I think it's important for local members to recognise when we made that request, we alluded to the fact that there may be opportunities in the community. So I think we should now engage fairly direct on that as soon as we can. So thanks again.
So Robertson.
Thank you, Convener. And this is an excellent report with some really exciting stuff that once it's developed in one area, I'm sure it can be easily transferred to another. I would like to make a plea for St Clements. I'd really see where it fits into there, along with the parents' requirement for a standalone school rather than being in a pod like this. But to go on to Inverness East, I'd like that to be considered as the part of Inverness to be done. We had the Inverness East Development Plan, which is 8 years into the building program of 5,000 houses, and yet seen no increase in services in the area. So I think they benefit from this, especially if we ever get round to Stratton School. I've given them any hope of Culloden Academy being done in my lifetime, but that demountable village, I'm sure, will keep them and stand them in good stead for quite some years to come. But if Inverness East could be considered, because I don't see where you're the site, the Dingwall one, it would be really good to be able to see where it's going to go. But we do know that there is land that is possible in Inverness East to provide the services that the development plan had intended to do in the first place. Thank you.
Councillor Mackey.
Thank you, Convener. Like Councillor Rowe, I wish to welcome this report. I think it'd be wrong not to, as a member representing Thurso and North West Caithness. I'm incredibly thankful that the Thurso work stream is going from something that was, agreed in principle on a paper to something that's actually a real planning activity, and something the progress which will be returning regularly to this chamber. Myself and fellow Caithness members who attended a kind of informal kick-off session with officers, I think we were actually incredibly impressed with the early discussion and really appreciated local members will be looking forward to kind of regular derised updates as indicated by council leader. Our contributions have already been taken on board, which was excellent to see. And to go back to Councillor Rosley's point about probably some of the unique placement settings that we have in Thurso, in the fact that, for example, our school sits only with one playing field between the UHI Northwest and Hebrides College. I think there are transformational opportunities that could be taken if we can not just do it ourselves but look to do value add as well. And I think it would be wrong for us not to be even more ambitious than what we're putting down here, but to go to our communities and to really get them engaged with the process as much as possible. As the Vice Chair of the Caithness Area Committee and the Civic Leader for Caithness, I'm absolutely committed to taking the most of this opportunity and to ensure we get as much value as we possibly can out of this. But I do think it's important to note that I think that this is something, and this ambition that we've seen in the papers for about the last year should exist in absolutely every single one of our communities. And I'm very fortunate that it is one of my communities that has been mentioned today. And I think it is really important to acknowledge that every single person, regardless of where they are in Highland, should have the appropriate settings to learn, to live, and to feel like a valued civic citizen. And I think that to that end, when we do look at the announcements made yesterday by the Chancellor of the Exchequer, where we're going to have tax take and tax burden at unprecedented level, I think there is an expectation for communities. I think there should be an expectation for people that we're not seeing a dilution of services, we're not seeing a dilution or a kind of asset base that continues to tumble around them, that actually we see renewal, because that's something that was very, very clearly promised. And I'm hoping that can be seen not just here, but that local government, not just in our capital money that we're given, but also in the revenue money, is acknowledged that this is a really important place, a really good value place to spend public money, which is sorely needed. Thank you.
Councillor Finlayson.
Thanks, Mina. In terms of what Councillor Stewart has articulated this morning, I'm assuming he's talking about me skipping down the road. I'm delighted to see that he feels that I'll still be energetic enough to do that. What's also important to remember is that someone who attends every stakeholder meeting relating to Broadford, this issue has been discussed numerous times, and I'd like to thank the officers at the back there, Robert and Finlay in particular. And I do know from my engagement with the stakeholder group and the community on a regular basis that they are very happy with the timelines and the progress that have been made. So I'm sure they'll be delighted to hear Councillor Stewart is so concerned. Anyway, I'm delighted to see this up on the progress taking place in implementing the Highland Investment Plan that was agreed by Council earlier in the year. As was indicated back in May, the ambitious £2.1 billion plan commits Highland Council to ongoing investments in roads and transport infrastructure, which is definitely a priority for my ward and, of course, right across the Highland. And it's really exciting to see the approach to developing new generation community facilities using the point of delivery approach, or PODs. which will see upgrades to the high number of schools that we all know require investment in the years ahead. I'm particularly pleased to see in this report reference to some of the distinct types of community pods that may be considered, which include urban and rural examples, as well as regional facilities, which I know will be welcomed by so many communities. And I would like to thank officers for their hard work to date on moving this work forward so quickly. And once again, I'd like to put on record my support for the ambitious and aspirational vision that the investment plan is recommending. My question today has been partly answered, related to making sure that the aspirations that are so well articulated in this paper are also being fully integrated into the projects we know are shovel ready, like LEAP T2 projects, including Broadford and Nairn, and also other well-advanced school plans for places like Dunvegan and Bewley, and I think Malcolm's covered that for Kilballins. And I think these will give us an early opportunity to showcase as early adopters the innovative work we are moving forward, and of course provide learning for the Council's teams that inform other work in the future. As indicated, these are exciting times for the Highlands, and fully endorse the positive direction of travel that we are seeing in terms of development of the Highland Investment Plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter, and thank you for the report. It's really ambitious. It's good to see. I don't think anybody could say that there's any reason why we should be proposing anything against it. I think it's really ambitious, and I look forward to seeing the outcome. And I particularly look forward to seeing the options being presented to us in December for my ward in particular. And I welcome the councillor leaders' commitment to ensure that the local members are informed. And I would just like to ask that we see regular updates coming to our business meetings so that we know exactly what the progress is in particular areas, because it really helps us when we speak to community council and just people we meet in the street about how actually we're progressing. So that the more regular updates we get, the better, and we can keep our local constituents informed. Thank you.
So, Greg.
Thank you, Convener. We're all fairly positive about the report, but I think I would support Councillor Christie's amendment asking for a review of lunch provision, especially in the issues in Milburn with a similar thing. But a couple of areas which I think we probably do need a bit more detail on, that I think we've mentioned that the engagement planning is something that we're looking at. I think we definitely need to see more detail about specific stakeholder groups. A fairly glib point is a 3D model on the screen included an outdoor basketball court. I don't know if any of us in the room is a fan of basketball, but if you tried playing basketball outdoors, Highland winter, when it's rainy and snowy, it's impossible. And I guarantee you that any you spend on outdoor basketball courts be unused for a long period of the year, no matter how nice they are on a site. So a slightly more serious point is that specific stakeholder groups, we need to look at the acceptability of some plans that I think everyone in the room could see how the school benefits of a pharmacy and a nursing home being on the same site, or a GP and a pharmacy being on the same site. But whether a secondary school and a pharmacy on the same site or a secondary and a GP on the same site is going to be acceptable to, for example, teenagers who are going to get contraceptive advice, I think it's something that we would need to ask some teenagers, and we should definitely plan that to stakeholder groups. Engagement, that it's probably fine for people to go and pick up hypertension medications, but I think someone to go discuss contraceptive advice when their classmates might be looking in on them, or their parents might be working at the local library, is something we should consider. And see, one of the 3D models has birth in it. I don't know how much discussion we've had with NHS and maternity provision, but we certainly struggle to provide maternity provision in to Grays and Caithness, which are fully staffed hospitals with 24-hour anaesthetic, surgical and medical consultant cover. I guess might be just something that we've put birth centre on there as a very early thing. We might take this out. Do we have any idea of what birth provision we might actually be able to provide in one of these centres, given that we can't do it in our actual hospitals? Thank you.
Don't want to take the debate, but maybe we'll have a conversation later. Do kids actually go to their GP to get advice for contraception? GP, the same GP their mother and father goes to? Yeah. Well, I don't take it all over lunch. Councillor McHugh.
Thank you, and thank you, Malcolm, for this report. And as everyone else says, it's a very ambitious report and a very welcome report, and a lot of work went into it by all the officers. I thank you for it. I'm actually interested in me is you're going to do a tracker, the development to keep us all informed. I think that's an excellent idea. I really do. And also the comment about keeping from Councillor Gale about keeping the ward councillors informed, because I get asked questions and about other members, the other council, other wards and different things. The local wards don't get informed, so keeping the local council so it can come up at our area business meetings is an excellent idea. I do actually appreciate sometimes that the pace of these projects are very slow. I'll speak off after this meeting about one of them in our area that I've been trying to find out about it. But I really do. It's a very ambitious report, and I'm very excited to see it coming. And I hope all these things will actually come to fruition in my time as a councillor. Thank you. Well, maybe.
Councillor Mackenzie.
Thank you, convener. So no skipping in Thursday then. Very briefly, convener, since St Clement talked about a number of occasions, and also the communications, which in some cases are perceived to have been poor in the past. All I can say of St Clement's, as one who's been involved in a variety of guises in St Clement's over many, many years, and have seen many promised false dawns during that time, some of which personally I thought would be false dawns even at the time of the proposal. Can I say that this time, this one feels different? There's a clear commitment here, not to St Clement's, but to the wider educational other provision in Dingwall, which is very welcomed. In terms of communication, it has been excellent, thank you, gentlemen. We have been kept in the loop this time all along the road, as have not only the St Clement's Council, but the parent councils of both the Academy and Dingwall Primary, who have come involved in the whole wider project. And in terms of siting, I think that all of the people involved as part of the stakeholder group in Dingwall are aware of the options for siting and are excited by the possible plans that have come forward, looking at the possible use of sites in the town. So I'd like to thank again the officer for their attention to detail on this, and it is only 6 weeks today until the December meeting, and we'll be much more fully informed. Thank you, convener.
Welcome.
Just go back. I think Councillor Mackenzie's covered the issues around St Clement's. I think rest assured the Dingwall report, which comes in December, will include a full options appraisal of all of these options and a recommendation, which members, of course, will be able to debate at length. So that one, in terms of East Inverness, we clearly have issues, as all members know, at Charlton Academy, which are specifically related to the priority list we went through in terms of dealing with kind of emergency and condition issues first. However, I do think your point about East Inverness, a well-made one, because we had our housing summit last week. We know we have to look at unlocking parts of East Inverness, because that's a natural way the city is going to go. So it's definitely something we will be looking at inevitably, whether it's through this project in terms of the community pod, or it's through reviewing East Inverness development brief, because frankly it needs to be done to allow us to move forward at pace. Councillor Finlayson, in terms of existing projects like Bewley and Derbegan, as far as possible we are doing that. We are trying to make, because obviously we're at different stages at different sites and different locations, designs, but we're doing as far as possible. We're looking to see what else we can lever to these locations. Thank you for the comment around Caithness. delighted that things are moving on and you're so positive about it. And once we get down to the detail, start narrowing down that long list, and that's where we really get the chance to bring it to life through the people we're doing it. In terms of the concept video, it's just that. So the things that are in there are not, definitive in any whatsoever. And whether it's basketball or football or whatever, it will be driven by what the community want and what we're able to afford. So hopefully we'll see a more updated one that starts to put some flesh on the bones at the next one. And we'll certainly taking on board your comments. We will look at that sort of thing in case it was set hairs running. Yeah.
Councillor Christie.
Yeah, I think my amendment is quite clear. There's a severe problem across a number of academies that I'm aware of, Milburn Academy and Inverness Royal Academy, over children not being able to eat in the dry. They're just eating outside in the rain, in the wind, in the snow. I presume it's a problem at academies. I've heard it is. All my amendment does is seek to get a report and analysis, which could be obviously fed into by the rectors probably very quickly, because the rectors know the situation in terms of their capacity, and then we can see it and factor it in or not into the Highland investment plan. I think it's a very reasonable request. It's been raised certainly to the councillors in my ward by the parent council in the past and by elected. Sure, it has for Milburn and other academies as well. So I move the amendment and urge people to support it because it's the right thing to do for our young people. It's correct that they should be sheltered in woods, walking in the roads around there, and that's not because they're going out to buy necessarily. It's because there's not physically enough space in the building for them to eat inside. And it's a question of finding innovative solutions to allow them to be out of the elements of the winters that we suffer in the Highlands. So I move amendment.
Councillor Bremner.
Yeah, totally appreciate what Councillor Steve is actually saying there just now. But there is continued and ongoing review of the Highland investment plan in terms of the ability and time it takes to review and survey and come back regularly to members on everything that's actually involved in the Highland investment plan, as this report actually exemplifies. So I'm quite satisfied that any of the points that have been referred to can be incorporated in reports coming back to the full council, or importantly, at other strategic committees. To me, it's more appropriate for some concerns that have been raised to be reflected on and considered directly by the appropriate strategic committee, while Highland Investment Plan continues the strategic overview in respect of delivering the £2.1 billion investment. Sometimes I think that when we refer to strategic case, we can actually get it dealt with fast there. In terms of longer term financial modelling, which was referred to earlier on, I believe that was fed into the May 24 Highland Investment Plan report and formed the basis of our approach there. As I mentioned, in terms of ongoing updates, would include updated financial models. That would continue to be part of the information members to inform their decision-making process. Because the 10% cap that we talked about back in May, that approach also means that as our revenue budget grows, the cash value of that 10% also grows. So it's all actually relative. The Highland Investment Plan approach allows council to flex and cope with it, so that in better times, as well as the times where it's a little bit more challenging and financially difficult. So, and lastly, I'm happy to reflect on the comment made about community engagement and reflect on that in the future updates as well. But for now, I think I'm just going to stay with I've covered the points. I'm just going to stick with the recommendations of our convener. Thank you.
Thank you, convener. So
Members, we have a motion from the council leader, seconded by the convener, and that's to the recommendations in terms of the agenda. We have an amendment from Councillor Christie, seconded by Councillor Gregg, and that's within the chat facility. And just briefly, that is in the following terms: that an analysis of all secondary schools be initiated detailing which schools cannot presently provide sheltered, dry, warm and safe place for our young people to take lunch, that the finding of this analysis be reported to Council as part of the next update in the Highland Investment Plan, together with options on how to address the matter. So for those members in the chamber, if you want to vote for the motion from the council leader, you should press the green button. If you wish to vote for the amendment from Councillor Christie, press the red button. If you wish to abstain, press the white button. I'll start the voting in the chamber shortly. Sorry, could you repeat the colours, please, for the vote? Thank you. So, Councillor Graham, if you wish to vote for the motion from Sir Bremner, it's the green button. If you wish to vote for the amendment from Councillor Christie, it's the red button. And to abstain, the white button. Thank you very much. So if everybody in the chamber has voted that wants to vote, pause that vote. Thank you. And then I'll go around those members online. If you tell me you wish to vote for the motion from the council leader, the amendment from Councillor Christie, or to abstain, and I'll start with Councillor Campbell.
Green for Councillor Bremner.
Councillor Collier. Councillor Gunn.
Amendment, please.
Councillor Andrew Jarvie. Councillor Barbara Jarvie.
Amendment, please. Thank you.
Councillor McCallum.
Amendment, please.
Councillor Mackay.
Motion.
Members, before we pause for lunch, I have to say something that I'm regretting having to say. Corporate Comms just had a communication regarding what we discussed this morning. That communication has obviously come from a member in this chamber. So if you're responsible for that, and obviously I don't know who it is, only the journalist would know, I think you should look in the mirror, and I think that's disgraceful. We had a long conversation this morning about how important it is to keep this item confidential, and yet, no more than an hour later, it's already in the press. So, members, I'm disgusted, to be perfectly honest. Please enjoy your lunch, please, by 1:30.
got rights? We got rights. Stand up, stand straight. Who got rights? We got rights. Everyone has rights. 142 rights. See the light of UNICEF. It's okay, you don't have to pay.
In a rights respecting school, everything we do is underpinned by the UNCRC, the rights of the child, and is underpinned by our school values. We truly believe in our values. We live, walk, talk about our values all the time, and I think that's made a huge difference to our children and the staff in our school.
Why did you join the Rights Respecting School?
I joined the Rights Respecting School because I wanted to empower the children at Cannockbridge Primary School to become familiar with rights that didn't necessarily affect us in our community, so that when they went out into the wider world of work, that they understood and could relate to all the rights.
What difference does learning about children's rights when you come to school?
Well, at Inverness Royal Academy, we talk about rights in registration, we talk about rights in assemblies, we talk about rights in PSC, we talk about rights in our classes. And what I can see is that pupils are starting to talk about rights with each other, and the pupil group is a big part of that. What difference does that make to the school as a whole? Well, firstly, what you can see is pupils getting engaged and involved in their learning. We tell them that it's not just acceptable for them to share their opinion and their views and to get involved with things, to express themselves, but is really encouraged here. And what you can see from that is people getting involved in lessons, participating in classes, and also in extracurriculars and the life of the school, and really enriching what we do here at the Inverness Royal Academy. I think in addition to that, what we can see is pupils have a language of respect, of responsibility and care for one another. That means that their relationships are stronger, are healthier, are happier, that they are more resilient. So we've seen lower incidences of unkind language. We've seen much more positive relationships between young people, and that's something I've seen over the years that I've been at the school.
What do you like about being a rights respecting school?
Well, I think there's a lot to like about it, actually. The final part of the journey has been just incredible, seeing the enthusiasm that the rights respecting leaders have had for it. Just to see how, as a whole school, we've really taken it on across every single class, every single child, and out into our community, with some of our community members being really involved. So I've just really enjoyed talking about it and learning about it, being on that journey, seeing the progress, and just having everyone in it together, and having a shared desire to sort of get there together and then maintain it and just keep going.
So Cian, why did you join the Rights Respecting Schools pupil group, and what do you like about it?
Well, I decided to join because I've always enjoyed helping out, improve the environment I'm around in, and helping the school that I already get a gold rights respecting that we got very recently definitely helped improve the environment of the school, being the first school in the Highlands to have gotten one. So I think it's quite the achievement to do, and I quite enjoy the group because there's quite a few people in it, and it's very helpful having lots of different people in it to get lots of different ideas, and just generally there's a lot of ease to it, considering you don't have to be the one doing everything, I guess. So having diversity and having a lot of different ideas, so you can try and get things that work with everyone.
How has it helped with the relationship with staff and pupils?
To be honest with you, our little small school has always had a really good relationship between staff and pupils, but where it has helped the most is bringing the community and different beliefs and cultures into our school and highlighting them. And we've had lots of great discussions where children enter into a debate with one another, but they understand that their values are that they're valued in the school, and that their beliefs are taken into account and shared, and that we've come to a shared understanding of relationships and how we can support everything in the school and respect one another.
Thank you. Why do you think it's important for people to feel included in the school?
Well, first and foremost, it's your school. So it's really important that you come to school feeling happy, because if you're not happy, then you're not going to be able to learn. Secondly, we speak all the time about one of our values of inclusion, and we've spent a lot of time through this journey really getting people to think about what inclusion means. It doesn't mean having to be best friends with everybody, but it means showing the respect and kindness so that everybody can be involved.
Why should Highland schools come right respecting schools? Because so that they know what their rights are and are empowered to make sure that they have them.
I think they should become rights respecting schools so everyone knows that they have rights and everyone knows that they do have rights and they don't have to earn them or they don't have to do something for them, and that everyone can learn them from when they're older and they can teach other people them as well.
There's no doubt that getting involved in rights respecting schools is a lot of work. You know, we have in terms of forming student groups and working groups of staff and events that we needed to run. There was a lot of time and effort that went into our journey to get our gold award. However, I would definitely recommend that other schools get involved. Aside from the things we've already mentioned in terms of people groups and levels of respect across the school and levels of quality in the school, one of the things that's been really useful for us is in terms of how it informs a lot of our policies in school. So say, for example, if we were making a behaviour policy in school now, a lot of the language that we use when we're making up that policy and sharing it with teachers would be rooted in rights respecting school language, and that has a hugely positive impact on how our staff are interacting with young people and also the young people's experience in classes and in the corridors. And I think that journey for us has been a really, really strong one, and it has actually, although there's been work in events that we've needed to run, it has really helped to guide us in a direction we want to go collectively as a school.
One of the things that strikes me about being a social worker in the Highlands is that you get to work in an absolutely beautiful, diverse region. You're working deep in communities. You know your communities, you understand your communities, and you have that knowledge of the localities. And it's diverse in the sense that you can be working here in Inverness, where we are today, and it's urban and it's a small city, but you also have the opportunities to be working in semi-rural, more remote and rural areas, and really getting to know and understand the uniqueness and the diversity of those communities. So being a social worker in Highland, if I was to really sum it up in terms of listening to social workers in Highlands, it's about that strong sense of the Highlands, the identity, the culture and the community, the strong community picture, and of course getting to work in some of the most beautiful parts, I was going to say the UK, but of the world.
I think Highland is going through a lot of change and improvement just now. It's quite exciting, it's quite dynamic. We're trying to really, I think, recast how we work with families and yeah, introducing things like the Family First strategy, which is really about trying to keep families together wherever possible, keep children in their communities, keep children with their families if possible, if safe. Introducing things like family group decision making, which is really about giving families and young people and children a voice in their lives, in their care plans. So yeah, it's a good time to be in Highland.
So, following publication of the Promise and the National Child Protection Guidance in 2021, Highland has begun a significant improvement journey. So we've got lots of exciting initiatives like the Scottish Child Interview Model, which looks at avoiding the re-traumatisation of children who have to attend court. We've got the Graded Care Profile, working alongside families that may be struggling. And we've also got the Safe and Together model, working with families where domestic abuse is an issue. So lots of exciting opportunities to get involved in new initiatives and help us improve services for children and families in Highland.
First time I've ever worked in the Highlands, I took a kind of leap of faith just based on the job role that I'd seen when I was staying in Glasgow. But I think, you know, a great life-work balance up here in Fort William. You know, you've got all the outdoor activities if that's what you want to do. But what I've found in the Highlands is the approachability, a kind of management, you know, like obviously my line manager, but senior management as well, you know, very open to discussions, to chats, to catch up, you know, and I think that's a kind of breath of fresh air. Generally, senior management, you tend not to see or hear from them, but I think different in the Highlands, you know, there's always that support on offer, whether it's via your own line manager or higher up staff.
I get to work directly with social workers, I get to work directly with managers, I get to have a voice in strategic planning, in keeping the promise, in thinking about how we strive to be a trauma-informed workforce. I get to have conversations with senior leaders about what that needs to look like for us to truly be a trauma-informed organisation, and I find that incredibly exciting, albeit challenging, but definitely rewarding. I get to work directly with care experienced young people and care experienced adults and thinking about how we shape our services and truly listen to the voice of our care experienced community, and I love that. I love the stories that I hear. I love that we have an opportunity to truly listen and reflect a proper 50-50 approach and listen to children and families in terms of what they need from us.
If you're a leader or a social worker or a practitioner in the Highlands, you are working in a large area within a large organisation that covers a very unique, very diverse, world recognised region.
rights? Stand up, stand straight. Who got rights? We got rights. Everyone has rights. 142 rights. See the light of UNICEF. It's okay, you don't have to pay.
In a rights respecting school, everything we do is underpinned by the UNCRC, the rights of the child, and is underpinned by our school values. We truly believe in our values. We live, walk, talk about our values all the time, and I think that's made a huge difference to our children and the staff in our school.
Why did you join the Rights Respecting School?
I joined the Rights Respecting School because I wanted to empower the children at Cannockbridge Primary School to become familiar with rights that didn't necessarily affect us in our community, so that when they went out into the wider world of work, that they understood and could relate to all the rights.
What difference does learning about children's rights when you come to school?
Well, at Inverness Royal Academy, we talk about rights in registration, we talk about rights in assemblies, we talk about rights in PSC, we talk about rights in our classes. And what I can see is that pupils are starting to talk about rights with each other, and the pupil group is a big part of that. What difference does that make to the school as a whole? Well, firstly, what you can see is pupils getting engaged and involved in their learning. We tell them that it's not just acceptable for them to share their opinion and their views and to get involved with things, to express themselves, but is really encouraged here. And what you can see from that is people getting involved in lessons, participating in classes, and also in extracurriculars and the life of the school, and really enriching what we do here at the Inverness Royal Academy. I think in addition to that, what we can see is pupils have a language of respect, of responsibility and care for one another. That means that their relationships are stronger, are healthier, are happier, that they are more resilient. So we've seen lower incidences of unkind language, we've seen much more positive relationships between young people, and that's something I've seen over the years that I've been at the school.
What do you like about being a rights respecting school?
Well, I think there's a lot to like about it actually. The final part of the journey has been just incredible, seeing the enthusiasm that the rights respecting leaders have had for it. Just to see how, as a whole school, we've really taken it on across every single class, every single child, and out into our community, with some of our community members being really involved. So I've just really enjoyed talking about it and learning about it, being on that journey, seeing the progress, and just having everyone in it together, and having a shared desire to sort of get there together and then maintain it and just keep going.
So Cian, why did you join the Rights Respecting Schools pupil group, and what do you like about it?
Well, I decided to join because I've always enjoyed helping out, improve the environment I'm around in, and helping the school that I get a gold Rights Respecting that we got very recently definitely helped improve the environment of the school, being the first school in the Highlands to have gotten one. So I think it's quite the achievement to do, and I quite enjoy because there's quite a few people in it, and it's very helpful having lots of different people in it to get lots of different ideas, and just generally there's a lot of ease to it, considering you don't have to be the one doing everything, I guess. So having diversity and having a lot of different ideas, so you can try and get things that work at everyone.
How has it helped with the relationship with staff and pupils?
To be honest with you, our little small school has always had a really good relationship between staff and pupils, but where it has helped the most is bringing the community and different beliefs and cultures into our school and highlighting them. And we've had lots of great discussions where children enter into a debate with one another, but they understand that their values are that they're valued in the school, and that their beliefs are taken into account and shared, and that we've come to a shared understanding of relationships and how we can support everything in the school and respect one another.
Thank you.
Why do you think it's important for people to feel included in the school?
Well, first and foremost, it's your school. So it's really important that you come to school feeling happy, because if you're not happy, then you're not going to be able to learn. Secondly, we speak all the time about one of our values of inclusion, and we've spent a lot of time through this journey really getting people to think about what inclusion means. It doesn't mean having to be best friends with everybody, but it means showing the respect and kindness so that everybody can be involved.
Why should Highland schools come right respecting schools? Because so that they know what their rights are and are empowered to make sure that they have them.
I think they should become rights respecting schools so everyone knows that they have rights and everyone knows that they do have rights and they don't have to earn them or they don't have to do something for them, and that everyone can learn them from when they're older and they can teach other people them as well.
There's no doubt that getting involved in rights respecting schools is a lot of work. You know, we have in terms of forming student groups and working groups of staff and events that we needed to run. There was a lot of time and effort that went into our journey to get our gold award. However, I would definitely recommend that other schools get involved. Aside from the things we've already mentioned in terms of people groups and levels of respect across the school and levels of quality in the school, one of the things that's been really useful for us is in terms of how it informs a lot of our policies in school. So say, for example, if we were making a behaviour policy in school now, a lot of the language that we use when we're making up that policy and sharing it with teachers would be rooted in rights respecting school language, and that has a hugely positive impact on how our staff are interacting with young people and also the young people's experience in classes and in the corridors. And I think that journey for us has been a really, really strong one, and it has actually, although there's been work in events that we've needed to run, it has really helped to guide us in a direction we want to go collectively as a school.
Rights respecting schools!
Kindly find a seat. Members, we will now go to roll call.
Thank you, Ian, and good afternoon, members. So, with those members in the chamber, could I ask you to confirm your attendance by pressing the green button when you have the option? Thank you. So if everybody's voted in the chamber, what was the vote there? Thank you. And then going around those members online to confirm attendance, Councillor Campbell. Councillor Collier. Councillor Gunn. Councillor Andrew Jarvie. Councillor Barbara Jarvie.
Afternoon, President.
Councillor McCallum.
Present, thank you.
Councillor Kai.
Present.
Councillor Clennon.
Present.
Councillor McGilvray.
Here, Stuart.
Councillor Morrison.
Yeah, present.
Councillor Smith.
Here.
And convener Councillors Monroe and Miller are attending a funeral this afternoon, so not with us.
Members, we now move to item 6 on your agenda, which is council motions on renewable FOC report. Malcolm.
Good afternoon, members. So this is a follow-up to the decision made on the 3rd of September in relation to the different elements of the motion that relate to renewable energy developments. From that day, we went away and went through the various elements of it, looking at the potential costs involved, the resource implications on our own staff in terms of existing workload, and some of the trickier elements around where particular roles should sit in relation to the planning process, given that that has to maintain a balanced view, be seen to be maintaining a balanced view. So in terms of that process, we've gone through the various elements. You'll see and have put forward a means of delivering on all of them. In terms of the mapping, I think there has been some points raised with me about how can it cost so much. Well, actually, it's not just a map. It's a map that you can use and can effectively use to gain information from it. And that does unfortunately take a lot of time and a lot of managing so that it remains as up to date as possible. We've done some discovery around this. We've gone through and looked at our resources, and we think we can create something that I think members really want, which will provide all of the information in the same place. But unfortunately, that does come at a cost, and the report sets that cost out. It also means that our existing planning staff can concentrate on dealing with planning applications and other types of applications, because as has been pointed out, many times there are huge pressures around that service. In terms of the approach to applications, we're getting on with the Highland Local Development Plan will include focusing on renewables, so that's just part and parcel for what we do. Community council training, again, pushing that along, we will come up with something much more bespoke than the online training that currently exists. I hope that will then be of use wider than just in Highland, but the opportunities there to develop that. In terms of community engagement, I've said the approaches. There's nothing in there. Again, other than the resource implications, we do have to be really careful about maintaining balance. Being seen to be and not writing options for people, etc., etc., etc. Or indicators of support. So the community engagement roles there are intended to supplement our existing team, but with a focus on engaging around renewable energy schemes of all type. If we get this right, we may be able to help with some of discussions around community benefit and such like, if that is an issue. So, but these remain separate from planning, and that's the way it has to be. And then, finally, I think it's worth pointing out that the other point of the motion, which was in relation to looking at a cumulative impact. So I think the leader has already committed to following that up. But it is also worth mentioning, two members for your information, that a new consultation has come out, a joint consultation between UK and Scottish Government on removing some of the barriers that are seen to electricity infrastructure. It's a very short turnaround. A response is due by the 3rd of November. So that's something we'll have to think about how we respond to, and that may cover some of the issues raised within the motion. Thank you.
Councillor Grimes.
Thank you, convener. Firstly, I'd like to thank Malcolm for his introduction to this. I really don't want to say more than that, other than what I'd like to point out is that routinely stand up in the chamber and thank officers, but in this case, we really should thank the officers. When you think of the turnaround that we've had here, the papers need to be out if we count back about 10, 11 days ago. So the officers have had a matter of days from 30th of September to turn this around. And that is against some of the pressures that they're under as well, and the capacity issues and the staffing issue, etc. So I think they're due a lot of credit towards us. And I trust everybody in the chamber, I'm seeing Helen on there, will agree with me. With that, I'll move the recommendation.
You have a second, Councillor Green. Yep. Councillor Green.
Thank you, convener. Just to reiterate Councillor Gowan's remarks and thank Malcolm and his team for the hard work and the speed that they've brought this back to us, and I'd just like to second the recommendation.
Councillor Willis.
Thank you. Thank you to the officers too, and I would also like to thank Councillor Helen Crawford for bringing the motion to Council at the last meeting. Thank you.
Very good. Councillor Rees.
Yes, very quickly. I strongly endorse what Ken's just said about the speed at which this paper has been prepared. It's really very commendable. Personally, supporter of the motion, I thought it was equally commendable. So I'm delighted at how quickly the preparatory work is being done. It is a bit more expensive than I'd expect, and I kind of wonder if the planning fees in the future might reflect this, because it will be such a good service that we will be providing to the public. I don't know if that's possible. And finally, Malcolm, particularly maybe to yourself as leader, thank you again for what's done in terms of the review that you just mentioned at the beginning. I was aware of that myself, and I think it has to be in by the 29th or the 30th of November, as you've just said. But the next meeting of NPAC isn't until December, and I mean, I don't think it's possible for the council to get an extension so that the planning committees are able to put, useful opinions across into the review. But that would only be, I would have thought, a useful thing to do. I'll defer the chair of NorthPAC, who, he's obviously in charge of that, but that's just my thoughts. Thank you.
Members, can we give the recommendation? Thanks, Malcolm. Members, item 7 on your agenda is review of standing orders, and I'll hand over to the Chief of Legal.
Thank you. Item 7 is review of this delegation. Just very briefly, members, one matter to raise with you. Slightly uncomfortable given where I'm sitting, but at paragraphs 127 and 128, the powers reserved to the council on page 71 of your papers, and the words "and to dismiss" have been struck out before the words of the chief executive. The intention was that paragraph 128 would encompass misconduct up to and including dismissal, but I think from discussions I've had with councillors Christie, Stewart and the convener this morning, I understand that it would be helpful to have that clear within the scheme. So therefore I'll be proposing that 128 be extended to say to hear misconduct issues up to and including dismissal raised by in relation to the chief executive and assistant chief executives. Thank you, members.
We now move to item 8, which is question time. And we have a question from a member of the public, and that's been unanswered. And the first question is from Councillor Christie, and do you have a supplementary, Councillor Christie?
I do, thank you, convener. With zero penalty notices for litter and for dog fouling, and taking account these popular items that get raised with us as councillors, will the leader arrange for a report to be brought to the relevant committee this financial year as to how we can source enforcement in these two areas?
Happy to have that discussion. I'm happy to have the discussion about the resourcing of a number of things that actually came out of this, the question that you asked in one, as part of the budget setting process as well. So, yeah, actually, I don't think that would be a bad thing, but we could maybe widen it out because to me, it would be quite a useful thing to do. Thanks.
Question 2, Councillor Christie.
Yep, thank you. As the council holds the statutory responsibility for the provision of adult social care, when will we all as councillors have sight of the saving proposals, stroke transformation proposals that are going to come along?
I can't obviously give an answer to that at this particular time because it's a very fluid place. We're actually within the financial year, but as soon as we can, as soon as we get some sort of further information and some sort of kind of understanding in terms of where we're going to be with going towards the end of the financial year, again as part of the budget setting process, I'm sure we can have those discussions. Thanks.
Mr. Graham.
Thank you, Leader, for the answer to the question. Forward to further information at the council meeting as well. My follow-up question is, could you please provide a schedule of works carried out at Charleston Academy during the 22-23 and the 23-24 financial years, including work in relation to our RAC concrete issues? And if you don't have that to hand, then I'm happy for it to be circulated later.
I think you've just asked and answered your own question there just now. Thank you.
Question 4 is from Councillor Crawford, who's not in the chamber and online, I believe. So, supplementary. Councillor.
Yeah, thank you, David, for your reply to my question. My supplementary question is, can you provide a straightforward assurance to residents in Sutherland and Caithness that the Highland Council's recent commitment to reinstate respite services at Thor House, Inverzo, or its replacement will include overnight care? Thank you.
Question you asked in the first place, Matthew. Well, that's not supplementary. Yeah. So, Greg.
Thank you, convener, and thank you to the leader for the answer to the question. Pleased to see that a coordinator's been hired for this particular area. Would the leader be able to speak to the chairs of relevant area committees to just getting an update on their agendas about the progress reinstating the access panels.
Yes. Councillor Willis.
Thank you, and thank you for the answer. As a supplementary question, how does Council plan to increase participation in the Bikeability programme in Highland going forward? Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Willis. Perhaps I've declared not an interest, but so not an interest, call it a transparency statement. Yes, transparency statement, because I was a member of the predecessor of this, which was the cycling proficiency test, of which I'm a recipient. I was also a member of its sister organisation, the Tufty Club, as well. So before I go into that, I'm sure there are a range of options, Councillor Willis, that we can look at to do with the schools, encouraging things through parent councils and through general education, working alongside the police. And I'm sure the officers will work through that going forward, and we'll try and get some more detailed information for you in course.
McIntosh. Fine.
No supplementary.
Thank you. It's appreciated. Members, we now move to item 9 on your agenda, and during this period, we have a couple of new members in the chamber today. I'd like to ask if Councillor Gregson or Councillor Cockle would like to say a few words, in whichever order you wish.
Thanks very much, Convener, for the opportunity to speak here today. I still feel humbled at having been elected to the office of councillor, and hope to live up to expectations of the electorate. Grateful for the kind words that I've already had from many of my colleagues here, and look forward to working with you all over the next year or two, at least. We'll see. And I must say, despite rhetoric you commonly hear, I'm really pleasantly surprised at the efficiency and the effectiveness of all the stuff that I have had the opportunity to engage with in these early days. And I feel the public should be aware of just how good they are. I mean, it's exceptional quality staff and really amazing work that they do. Just tell you a wee bit about who I am. Sinclair Coghill. I've been in the Forestry Commission for 25 years and changed career over to the Deer Commission, which latterly became Nature Scot, working on deer management for the next 15 years. I have been a member of the Saltburn and Westwood Community Council for the last 6-7 years since I moved back to Saltburn, and on the Invergordon Development Trust, both role that you'll be aware that I'll have given up, stood down from. Politically, I've been SNP most of my days until last election, when the Dems got or Jamie Stowe got my vote. So that's where I'm at. I'm on the left, not the far left. Anyway, look forward to working with you all in 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael.
Thank you, Convener. Orm Moore of Aown. I'm honoured to be here representing Inverness Central, and I would echo what Councillor Coghill said about the excellence and the commitment of the staff that I've come across so far. That's been splendid. We're not big enough to be a group. I think we're more of a sort of barnacle on the side of everything. So I'm appreciative of those who I think are suggesting I might join a committee or two. So thanks to all members of staff and members of the council for encouragement and wise words, even when I chat in the chat, which I shouldn't have done. But thanks. Look forward to the next years.
The remainder of the changes are detailed in the papers that have been circulated, so they're really there for noting. Okay. Item 10 on your agenda, members, the appointment of office bearers, and I'd like to propose Councillor Derek Loudon as the chair of the Pensions Committee. Are there any nominations? Councillor Bremner's saying that. So there are no other nominations. My commiserations, Councillor. Appointment to companies. This is the Highland Opportunity Investments Limited. Oh.
Thank you, Convener. Hoyle continues to do good work helping high businesses thrive. You've seen recently our loans to the Flow Country Partnership and to Inverness Dog Daycare, which I took particular pleasure in because I got to do a press release for them, right? Sniffed and licked their dogs, which is great fun. Encourage you all to direct companies or organisations in your ward looking for finance to Hoyle. Officers always there being to give consideration to it, also advice to them, to everybody. Returning to business, can I thank Mike Green for his hard work? I propose Councillor Campbell to replace him.
Any other nominations, members? No. Biz unfortunately gets our position.
Cool.
12 on your agenda, members, is the timetable of meetings. Members, this timetable, I think I saw 16 different iterations. It was originally, most of the change were originally proposed by the Governance Review Steering Group, and I propose these, and I look, okay, I look for a seconder. For a seconder, Councillor Bremner. Councillor Willis.
Thank you, Vina. I would just like to propose an amendment. Currently on the timetable, the Climate Change Committee is on the same day in the afternoon as the Economy and Infrastructure Committee. Economy and Infrastructure Committee is a major strategic committee and often extends into the afternoon, has many important papers that come to it. Climate change is an existential threat to our existence, and actions to tackle climate and ecological emergency is to be ended across all council activities. It's an incredibly important committee. Both committees often have many technical, quite detailed technical reports that come to them, and I really don't think restricting the time, the E&I committee and the climate change committee to half a day is not conducive to encouraging member scrutiny and discussion into the important decisions that have to be made in these committees. So I'm suggesting that they are not held on the same day. Thank you.
And do you have an alternative when they be held?
Well, so community housing and property and communities in place both have full days, so perhaps climate change would be after one of those two committees, and that's about a week before E&I. So many papers that come to climate change committee have to then go on to E&I as well.
I'm looking at the chair of E&I. Quite happy with that. Okay, I'm quite happy to accept that. Good. Mr. Robertson.
Thank you, Commissioner. Again, the Audit Committee is on the same day as Health, Social Care and Wellbeing. However, it's also been brought forward a month from where it used to sit in the calendar. And with regard to our external auditors, they have the following planned date: the submission of their annual audit plan by the 31st of March each year, submission of their annual audit report by the 30th of September each year. I know that they've not always managed to get this date. It was January last year and they are planning November this year. but the 3rd November is the statutory date for this to be presented. Meeting this date has always been challenging with external audits, so bringing the committee forward a month does not work. I've suggested the new dates of the 19th or 20th of February for the 8th of February meeting, which gives them 2 weeks extra to prepare their plan. The 19th of June instead of the 28th of May. The 25th of September instead of 20th of August, as this is nearer the date when accounts should be ready. If not ready, we will need to have a special meeting. And the 26th of November before the statutory date for the account, give them one last attempt. And I think Councillor McEwen's a second that.
Councillor Rosie.
Thank you, Convener. My queries just in regard to planning committees. And apologies for I only noticed this recently, but the proposal are that they be held on consecutive days throughout the year. My understanding is that they're staggered for good reason, for resources and whatnot. So I just wonder, is there an opportunity to review the arrangement?
Councillor Brenner.
Understand the point that Councillor Rose has made, and I think we could take it up with the planning committee and come back in respect of that. The calendar isn't enacted until next year, and I think we would need to have discussion with the planning chairs and with the planning department on that one first. Thank you.
But I don't think it's a matter for the planning committee. It's a matter for here.
Sorry, chairs and well, yeah. We can soon come back with sort of suggestions, but I would imagine that it would have to do the work of the planning department.
Councillor McEwen.
Thank you, and I'm happy to second Trish's motion. I just thank you, Carol, for raising that issue. I was going to raise that issue about the North Pack and South Pack being on consecutive days. There's only a week between them for good reasons. It's not just for the reasons of the planning, but the resources of the clerks, etc. I'll gathering all the papers up and getting them all, etc. as well. It's the staff as well. Thank you.
Okay, well, I think the item's been adequately answered by the council. I don't think there's any necessity for us to go backwards and forwards with you winding up, Trish. I think, to be perfectly honest, if you look at what performance of our external auditors in previous years, there's probably no chance of them ever hitting the deadlines that they bring forward. So I would propose the motion as it is. So
I have an amendment. I've passed it to Jane. I don't know if it's been passed on to them, but I've got another copy here.
you will have to discuss and decide what's the appropriate committee to tag it on to. Okay.
Thank you, Convener. Members, we have a motion from Convener, seconded by the Council Leader, and that is to move the calendar meetings for 2025 as tabled, with the exception of the Climate Change Committee, which will not be timetabled to meet after either the Housing and Property or the Entities in Place Committee, and we'll confirm that. Of course, the amendment is from Councillor Robertson, seconded by Councillor McHugh. That's within your chat, and that's in respect of date for the proposed Audit Committee in 2025. Members in the Chamber, when you come to the vote, if you wish to vote for the motion of the Convener, it will be the green button. If you wish to vote for the amendment from Councillor Robertson, it will be the red button. If you wish to abstain, it will be the white button. And we'll start the vote in the chamber shortly. Thank you. Oh, Drew's back. Wonderful. Okay. Okay. So if everybody in the chamber had voted, we'll pause the voting. Thank you. And around those members participating remotely, if you wish to vote for the motion of the convener or the amendment from Councillor Robertson or to abstain, let's start with Councillor Campbell.
The green button, the convener's motion.
Councillor Collier. Councillor Collier, can I just confirm, was that motion? Thank you.
Hate speech discrimination. Wish there wasn't hidden on me. This is threats from the police. He would do that.
Councillor Collier, do you have someone with you?
Councillor Gunn, motion, amendment or abstain?
Amendment, please.
Councillor Andrew Jarvie. Councillor Barbara Jarvie.
Amendment, please. Thank you.
Councillor McCallum.
Amendment, please.
Councillor Kai.
Motion.
Councillor McLennan.
Motion.
Motion.
Councillor Miller.
Motion.
Councillor Morrison.
Motion, please.
Councillor Munro. Councillor Smith. Thank you, members. Convener, there were 35 votes for the motion, there were 24 votes for the amendment, and there were 3 abstentions, so the motion's carried.
Item 13 on your agenda, member, is deeds noting, deeds executed. They are there for noting. Thank you. Now we move to item 16 on your agenda, which is notices of motion. Motion number 1 from Councillor Mackey.
Thank you very much, Convener. Members, before I introduce the substantive element of my motion, I do want to make crystal clear to members that the motion tabled on your papers today is not the result of one isolated incident or a result of mere coverage. And indeed, it is not my nor the signatories of this motion's intention to put any unwanted spotlight on our community councils or to make their life or work more harder or more bureaucratic. The motion, as presented to you today, is to acknowledge that we, as a local authority, do not currently have a satisfactory mechanism that can adequately, equitably and transparently deal with complaints that may come from either members of the public, community councils, or community councillors or community councils, community councils at large. And this applies for not just the complainants, but as well as those who are subject to complaint. This is, in my motion, in my opinion, no fault of this council, nor the staff members in community support and ward management, many of whom inevitably called away from their roles to try and deal with and to support what complaints, grievances and general issues may arise with our community councils. I believe this is because our most local form of community of government sits very awkwardly in the hierarchy of local democracy. Our community councillors hold elected positions, and despite being tasked with providing input on a wide variety of statutory duties and providing a genuine local forum a genuine local forum in each of our communities that they represent. I do believe that it is ultimately a voluntary vocation and one that is immensely underappreciated and also, for many, misunderstood. In my time as a Highland councillor, I've attended only community councils in my own ward, but in East Caithness, in Sutherland, Inverness and Lochaber. And I believe it's a demonstrable fact our community councillors' jobs can be made even more difficult when disputes and complaints cannot be resolved satisfactorily. When those around the community council table are not afforded definitive closure. And it has, and I believe it will continue to lead to these vital forums becoming increasingly fractious, and as a result, attractiveness of the role of community councillor being diminished. And ultimately, members, I do believe where we have less local democracy, that is something that not a single person in this chamber wants. When I compare and contrast our mandatory code of conduct that is widely published and I believe is generally well understood, we are afforded multiple opportunities to receive training and receive updates as and when they arise. It's for that reason that when an elected member is accused of breaching the code of conduct, there is a very clear, transparent and external process for assessing a breach and ensuring standards in public life, which I think everybody here respects, are upheld. Now, while I think it is probably slightly unlikely that the Standards Commission will enthusiastically look to oversee thousands of community councils across Scotland, I do believe it's still important to write to the Minister for Local Government to outline this is a matter that I believe must be addressed. I also welcome the opportunity that the Highland Council is having an ongoing review, one that will impact on our community council arrangements, and I believe that this activity will only supplement this motion and does not doubt it in any way. Members, I hope that you'll be able to consider this motion and give it your support. I don't intend on saying anything further. Wiener, thank you very much.
Councillor Bremner.
First of all, thanks very much to Councillor Mackey for bringing the motion. I have to say thanks also very much for the discussions that we had on this, and I think that in the future those discussions could be replicated with many others in terms of motions that come to this council that would actually save us a fair amount of time and heartache. And I think because of that, a lot of what Councillor Mackey said there just now, I'm sure he had the ability to be able to reflect on some of the discussions that I and others have had with him in terms of it's not just what can be read into a motion, but what can sometimes be read out with the motion. And if we can get confirmation, which we have had in terms of that, it can really help. I understand. I'm happy to write as requested here. But I understand that Councillor Mack is under no illusion, as I am under no illusion, where this may go or where it may not go. But I think that the intent and consideration behind it is well meant. And thanks very much for clarifying a lot of maybe what was behind some folks' thinking here in terms of where this was going. And not only our thinking, but sometimes the thinking of one or two community councillors there. And I know that we all have the backs of paid volunteers who are looking to be able to do their best in contributing to the role of governance in our country. So thank you very much for what you said. Happy to do to write as has been suggested in this motion. Thank you.
That's right.
Thank you. I just also want to thank Councillor Mackey for explaining to me the motivation for this motion. On first reading, I must admit, being one of those feeling it was a little of a gut punch to our many hard-working volunteers who, let's not forget, make up first rung of our democratic system in Scotland. I mean, community councils face several challenges in terms of membership, financial and operational sustainability, and in being able to represent communities in a way that is both welcomed and supported by their communities. And they, a lot work very hard. That said, having discussed this with you and canvassed other views. Every organisation, whether you volunteer or not, requires a code of conduct that all who participate in it have to adhere to. That's just life, whether you work in a school or volunteer anywhere. And there does need to be, therefore, a system that is robust. Conduct does undermine those basic principles, and it would undermine any individual community council. So I appreciate my experience on my ward. The amount of work done is fantastic. So maybe an idea code of conduct will help. That's not a voluntary code. That's you sign up for a person taking this huge responsibility. So I do support the motion now on that basis. Thank you.
Go, Fraser.
Do I go with this new equipment? See how good it is. That looks smart. That's all that. Yeah. I might as well make the most of it. Yeah, I do say I have to support this. I have to say, been up and down in the two town community councils, the abuse and aggression that I've had and my members have had. I've seen community councils get up and walk out and leave because of the behaviour of some of the members, not return. Some have actually gone on to do other things, better things. So I support this, and I did think there needs to be some form of accountability on these on community council members. Thank you.
Of course, you'll notice that it was on white green. So. That's him. Remember, there's no one opposed to this motion, so it's passed. Motion number 2 is from Councillor Balance.
Thank you, Convener. This is a motion which was proposed to the previous council meeting and we didn't get the time to hear it. The Nature Restoration Fund particularly benefits the Highlands. Our well-being depends on a healthy natural world. Our tourism is driven by natural world and our climate needs biodiversity. Last year, Highland groups received £676,000 of support towards restoring our natural environment in the Highlands. In my own ward alone, groups received over £50,000 for improving biodiversity, creating wildflower meadows, planting trees, replacing Dutch elm and ash dieback casualties. Yet our local MSP, Kate Forbes, Cabinet Secretary of the Treasury, sat by as this loss to the Highlands was agreed. I think the 3rd December financial statement showed that without the Greens on board, the SNP government has lost its interest in nature and the climate because the cuts include £500 million from Scott Wind sell-off previously earmarked for climate action, £4 million from active travel, £2 million from energy efficiency decarbonisation, £2.5 million from Zero Waste Scotland, £500,000 from the Industrial Energy Transformation Fund, as well as the end to free bus travel for asylum seekers, cuts to flood defence money, the further rollout of free school meals and the reintroduction of peak price rail fares. After 14 years of Westminster Tories austerity, cuts are indeed inevitable, so we're told. But to make these cuts inevitable, what about cutting some of the subsidies to sporting estates, multinational businesses, or bidding the costs of planning the start of the doomed National Care Service, which now nobody seems to support? What about increasing income instead? About an increase in landfill tax, the land and buildings transaction tax, a public health levy on alcohol and tobacco sold at supermarkets, or even council tax reform promised us way back in 2008 and following, or the emissions land tax that we have debated here previously. There's always an alternative. There is always choices. My motion focuses on the Nature Restoration Fund because it has so much to offer communities and the biodiversity of the Highlands. The motion simply asks that the Council writes to the Scottish Government to ask the Nature Restoration Fund, which achieved so much here, be reinstated. And the Council Leader has proposed an amendment, which I'm happy to accept, which is in the 3rd paragraph, after, whilst recognising the right of public sector workers to receive a fair settlement, this Council, delete all and replace with this Council asks the council leader to write to the Cabinet Secretary for Finance, Sean Robertson, MSP, to request the Scottish Government to consider the restatement of the Nature Restoration Fund as part of their December budget statement. Colleagues, I ask you to agree this motion as amended, and thank you.
Just one point, Chris, in your original submission, Kate Forbes was definitely not the Cabinet Secretary of the Treasury. Chris Stewart.
Thank you, Convener. I'd like to ask the Council Leader on Councillor Bonds where they would anticipate this coming from to fund this additional proposal, because we know how difficult it is to make tough choices. I'd like to see where it's coming from.
Just a minute. Calm down. It's been a nice day. Councillor Rees.
Thank you. Sorry, I think I've leapfrogged you. That's the convener. I actually have a very, very good sort of relationship with sort of Balance in general and with his colleagues. Yes, I think he's acknowledging, but the problem is he can never really quite get through a motion without sort of resorting to his beloved phrase, Tory austerity. And today we had council tax reform, all the rest of it. But having got that off my chest, on the National Care Service, actually, for Highland, which is nearly 1/6 of the UK landmass, tourism is by far and away our biggest thing. And if in some way Nature Fund can help make Highland a more attractive place for visitors, as well as for ourselves, that is to be commended, because we all know that the research shows that one main reason tourists come to visit the Highlands, and probably the islands, is that they have the appearance of being a wild, unspoilt place, which is such a rare thing in modern day UK, a small, quite crowded island. So I think he queried there, where would this money come from? Well, the answer came from Councillor Barnacle McIntosh over here a bit earlier this morning when he talked about the Chancellor's generosity. Some of that money is coming from the border, so perhaps that would be a source of the money. I think also, and I don't know if the money can be used for this because not as well equipped with this fund as Chris is, and not as well equipped with this fund as Chris probably is. But also, we lost our range service this year, and if that could be reinstated, they did a tremendous job in terms of the natural environment and a light touch control of wild camping and that kind of thing. So, despite my kind of observation about austerity or the lack of it, I support this motion. Thank you.
Councillor Gregson.
Thank you, Convener. Yes, I too will support the motion. I completely endorse what Councillor Rees has said and most of what Councillor Balance has said, although it was quite wide-ranging, obviously. It's worth emphasising that 75% of species at risk are in the Highlands. Even within an urban walk such as my own, there are many diverse species to be seen, not only in Merkinch Local Nature Reserve, but across the ward, I would say. Badgers, otters, squirrels, etc. And the big problem underlying this is really the SNP government has not really produced a plan as to how to achieve climate change targets, which are very laudable targets. Magnificent rhetoric. We haven't really seen the evidence how those climate change targets will be achieved. And biodiversity is an important and essential part of our quality of life and relationship with the planet. I support the motion.
One has proposed an amendment, so the motion is carried. Motion number 3, Councillor Willis.
Thank you, Convener. I think the motion I proposed is resulted following we saw the difficulties in the last council meeting when Councillor Crawford proposed a highly complex motion and an amendment was delivered during the meeting. So hence, I feel that we need to have a better structured process. And I have the motion I originally put in. I have received an amendment suggesting that we, and I've accepted that amendment to the last sentence, saying that council therefore calls for the review group to consider appropriate changes to standing orders and to recommend them to the full council, the December council meeting. That timeline may be open to slight delays depending on the process that it needs to go through. And also within my motion, also said the motion proposes that amendments to motion should be shared. The motion proposes at least 24 to 48 hours before the commencement of council meetings. Maybe when it goes through the review process, that's an indicative time. It may need to change, maybe a couple of 4 or 5 days. But I would leave that up to the review group to consider and bring the appropriate changes back, hopefully, to the full council, the December full council meeting. I'll put that change to the final sentence in the Teams chat. So I hope you can support this motion. Thank you.
Is anyone opposed to that? Agreed.
You didn't agree. It says a group which reviews standing orders. Just for clarification, that is the governance review group. Thank you.
Well, agreed. Item 17 on the agenda, members, is the confirmation of minutes. I propose the minutes held of the meeting on the 19th of September, and I'll second that. I also propose the minutes of the meetings of various committees, with the exception of the design board, which has a starred item. So can we agree the other minutes with the exception of the starred item? Councillor Bremner.
Just to, in terms of the customer experience strategy, where the redesign board is asking council to agree to recommend to the strategy for the customer experience strategy be adopted. And I move that starred item. I'll look for a seconder. Thank you.
Members, that brings us to the end of the meeting today. So thank you all very much.